This is Master Your Mindset with Coach Mark.
What is going on, my people? And welcome back to another Monday episode. I have an amazing one here for you guys today. We're going to talk a little bit about really how to not take things personal as a leader, which is a very difficult thing to kind of do. A little bit of a side note. I appreciate you so much for being back here listening to me. I know my voice is still a little bit weird, but I listened to last week's episodes and I really did believe that I was getting over my sickness, but I ended up rebounding and really it felt like I was in the process of recording my episodes and my brain really wasn't working so much. But I appreciate you for being back here, and I promise you that I am now turned the corner again. Actually, I think if I turn the corner too many times, I go around in circles. But anyway, I really wanted to pour into you guys today, and I'm feeling a little bit of energy today. And I have been putting together this brand new leadership course. It's called the Ideal Leader Blueprint. And I've been talking a lot about it on social media, on the podcast. You probably heard it in the beginning of the intro today, thanks to Kurt. But I've been talking about it a lot because I've gotten a lot of questions from people wanting me to put together something that can help them become an influential leader. And when I say an influential leader, yes, I mean in your career, but what I also mean is in business and with your family and with leading yourself. Because influential leaders don't just lead well in one area of their life. Have you ever seen that where people are they're excelling in one area and the rest of their life is falling apart? That's not the kind of leader that I want to follow. And now in this new age when leadership is actually changing, and I'm going to do a podcast on that. What I meant by leadership is really changing is the fact that it's not about a one-dimensional person. It's the three dimensions: the family, leading yourself, and leading professionally. All three of those, when you combine them all, that's how you make the biggest impact and how you make the most with your influence. And that's what I truly believe, and that's what people have been asking me to put together, because I used to run mastermind teams. They were 6 months long. We would get on every single week. I would do an hour worth of training. I would help them out. But 6 months is a long time. And so my thought, and really a lot of the people who were reaching out to me who wanted to participate but couldn't give it 6 months, was how can I just teach the most powerful content in the shortest period of time, have it be a course that somebody could go through at any time, listen to on podcasts if they just want to listen to the audio. And that's why I've been in this creation mode. But while I'm creating this, I have a lot of people who reach out with things that they're going through or things that I help them solve inside of the program. And I wish that I could just teach it all here on the podcast. Of course, number one, I wouldn't have a business. But number two, most likely is you wouldn't take action on it, because a lot of times free content, we don't have that buy-in with it. So those two reasons got me to just really think, but how can I share a little bit of that with you guys? And that's what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks, is really just sharing kind of the ideas around the principles that I kind of teach about in the program without giving you the exact step-by-step, because that's what I say for the people inside of the program. That being said, I think we have, I only want 20 people for this round, but I think we have 17 at the time of this recording. So if you're somebody who's interested in that, definitely head to the show notes. You can go to mindsetwithmark.com/leader. There is a mini presentation that I have that kind of talks about the program and how you can start to develop that influence in those three areas, even if you decide not to join the program. All right. I wanted to give something out free for people who want to get started now. Okay. All right. That being said, what I want to do today on this podcast is I want to share a strategy to help you stop taking things personal as a leader, and so that you can actually make the impact that you want to make without feeling basically because of the outside world is saying or doing or some type of behavior from them is evidence that you shouldn't. Really, it has a lot to do with self-sabotage. And I talk about this a lot, and I actually have a structure inside of the Ideal Leader Blueprint for people to follow along with so that they don't sabotage themselves and they bring awareness to it when it's actually happening. But a lot of this does have to do with sabotage, because when we let outside people determine our direction, that's not really being a leader. It's kind of listening to the outside world and bending or adjusting to that. And that's not really how leaders in this world really do make the biggest impact. They stand true to what they truly believe in. Yes, they will accept outside information. They will even sometimes change their beliefs, but they do it from a different place than just trying to appease people. They're not doing that, all right? They're not doing that at all. But I want to break down how you can actually get started with this. All right. So what most people do is they listen to the feedback in the outside world, whether it's somebody who's really close to you, like a near dear friend or even a significant other, right? They're trying to protect you, or somebody makes a comment on social media, or somebody makes a comment in roll call, or whatever's kind of going on. Maybe you're having a back and forth conversation and something kind of comes up. Well, most people do is they take that other person's, what they said or what they did, personal, and make it mean something about them. They make it mean something about them. And then from there, it kind of like spirals out of control, because then you're looking for all the evidence to prove that what they just said to you is true. Well, this is true, and this is true, and this is true. You'll actually feel this, like, because you'll start to get angry, you'll start to get frustrated, you'll start to feel unworthy based off of what somebody else did or said. And if you can kind of see like that, that's living a life of the outside controlling what's going on the inside. And that's not really what a leader does. A leader is the person who knows the way and goes the way and shows the way, not, goes along this whatever direction that somebody else in front of him basically tells them. That's not the case at all. All right. We have to take that leadership role and know that there's going to be naysayers. There's going to be people that are out there that are going to be saying things, and we cannot distract ourselves from the actual mission of like our leadership mission. Okay. Now, how we do this, I'm going to give you a little bit of a breakdown how I would go through this personally and how I actually do, because this is something that in the past and even to today that I will sometimes struggle with, is like somebody gives me their opinion and sometimes it immediately transfers into a feeling into my body, and it gets me to kind of like go into the back, hide a little bit, take a second, and really get me to not take the actions that I know that I should be taking. Now, the first step is to remove yourself from the equation, all right? The first step is to remove yourself from the equation. So whenever anybody says or does something that gets you to feel like just that awkwardness feeling, I want you to remove yourself from the situation. Now, I know that it's kind of difficult to do, and that's why we have that structure in the Ideal Leader Blueprint, because it's very hard to just say, oh, you know what? I'm just going to remove myself from the equation. But think of what happens when you don't. If you keep yourself as a part of the equation, you're going to be dealing with your limiting beliefs and like your own interpretations of what's kind of going on and your own emotions. How in the world can you effectively lead others when you're focused on you in that manner? What I want you to understand is that the same thing that's going on in your brain is going on in that other person's brain. And I want you to take what it is that they say, and instead of using it against you, realizing that there's something that that person is going through. As a matter of fact, this is probably your greatest opportunity to not only help them, but at the same time, show people in the world what you're really about, okay? Because if you go and hide, if you go and just, go off in that other direction, you're not really showing people what you stand for. This is your opportunity to show people what you stand for. Now, I do want to caveat this, because sometimes when people like send me messages or posts on social media, they'll comment on something that I put out there. I don't actually respond or react or do anything to them. I just ban them or delete them. You're going to find that there's going to be moments where you do have those really serious haters, and you don't have to do anything that I'm telling you about right now. I'm just saying, for the other times when you actually do want to respond, when you do want to like help that person, this is the opportunity that you get to have. You get to really remove yourself from the equation. Because remember, we don't make really great decisions in the moment if we're like overcome by a negative emotion. If we're angry, if we're fearful, if we feel unworthy, we don't usually make the best decisions when we're coming from that place, all right? But remember, there's also limiting beliefs that we have, especially, me teaching a course on leadership. I can't tell you how many limiting beliefs leaders have, and they pretend like they don't have them. But once you become aware of them, then you have the ability of actually being able to control them, to change them, to redirect them into a different area. We all have limiting beliefs, but when somebody says something about us, our limiting beliefs kick over, and we forget that that person has those same things that are going on their end. Let me give you an example, okay? Maybe you've done this, all right? Where you have like literally been driving, right? Everything's cool. And then all of a sudden somebody like cuts you off, right? And then they cut somebody else off and cut somebody else off. And I know so a lot of people can get like pissed, especially nowadays, like with road rage. I don't know why. Like people just get really crazy with some of the things they do, right? Being a police officer, if you guys are in law enforcement, you know this too. It's just like, really? You're going to make that mean something? Anyway, this person cuts everybody off, like gets off of the freeway and just starts turning around corners and whatnot. And you can, based off of that, create an experience. Actually, you do this automatically about what that means in your head. You might make it mean like, hey, like this person has due regard, like no regard for anybody that's out there. Like what's wrong with them? They're going to create some X, Y, and Z, and they must not really care about anybody. But I want you to think about this. What if later you meet up with a person and they're actually at the hospital because their family has been involved in some kind of tragic accident and they needed to get there so that they could see their family because of the situation that's going on? Now, let me ask you, does it change your outlook of the entire situation because you got it from a different perspective? Now, here's the thing. This is what I always believe is like giving other people the grace. It's not only a gift that I give to them, it's actually a gift I give to myself. Because if I have that situation go through and I go, you know what, something must be really going on with their life. Something must be going on. And like, that's just totally cool. Like I would probably be doing the same exact thing if somebody in my family had been seriously or critically injured, right? That flips it. But see, here's the thing. When you flip something like that, you actually give yourself the grace. Because really, who does it hurt for you to get angry and upset that somebody cut you off? Does it hurt the other person? No, they could care less. They're not even thinking about that. There's probably been moments when we've cut off people and we don't even realize that we've made that kind of impact, right? And so reality is when you let that other person make it mean something about them rather than something about you, it gives you you're in a totally different place. You're maybe even a place of curiosity. You may be in a place of like just grace. Like I'm just giving them grace. And it gets you to show up entirely different than if you were to respond when it comes to anger, frustration, or anything of that nature, right? That's why removing ourselves from the equation is the most important part of that process, all right? Now I want to get into step number 2, all right? Step number 2 is once you remove yourself from the equation, get curious, all right? Get curious. What most people do is they'll get angry or frustrated because of something that's happened or somebody that said something, and they react because they make it mean something about themselves, right? But instead, what if you started to ask yourself some more powerful questions like, hey, I wonder what it is that they're going through. I wonder what like could have happened on the other end that I just don't see, because you don't see that stuff that happens in the background. And let me just tell you, people don't come up and tell you about those things unless you have created a psychologically safe environment as a leader. If you've done that, then people will come up and tell you things. But most of the time, you haven't done that. And people aren't going to come up to you and share that kind of information. So there's always things going around behind the scenes that you have no idea is kind of going on. So that's how we get curious. We remember like, hey, guess what? They have limiting beliefs just like I have limiting beliefs. They have things going on at home just like I have things at home. And everything flows through that for the entire day, let alone for our entire lives, all right? And most of the time, they don't even know this is actually happening. They have no idea that this exists, right? Because most people don't realize that they have this unconscious or subconscious like conversation that's going on all the time that's literally getting them to feel and to take actions and to shape their world as the way they are now. But when we understand that, when we go, okay, so that's the reason why, like, there must be something significant that's happening in that person's life. It just gives us this place of coming from curiosity. And then we could start asking questions. We could start figuring out, like, you know what? What's a way, and this is a question I asked myself recently, what's a way that I can respond back to this person and actually, like, help them, but at the same time, really show people the type of leader that I am? And this person had responded to something that I had written on social media, even though initially I thought, I immediately started to react to it, and then I brought myself back to it and said, you know what, this comment is not about me. This is about them. Right now, they actually need me more from the place of being a coach, of being a leader, of being curious, like actually allowing curiosity to really help them. But also it gives me an opportunity for other people to see that I'm not the person who's going to react to something. I'm not going to get angry at somebody for doing or saying something like that. And instead, it allowed me to come up with some great answers, and I could respond back to that person in a way that helped them, whether or not they decided to take it. Remember, leaders have to be unmoved by the opinions of others. If I put it out there and the person just whatever, like, that's okay. It maybe wasn't necessarily meant directly for them to get help if they decide they're not going to, but it helped a ton of other people whom I have saw that too. And that's the opportunity we have as a leader, really, to make sure that we disconnect ourselves from the outside behaviors that are happening and allow us to like realize, hey, you know what? Just becoming curious is really going to help out not only them, but it's going to help out me too. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. Yes, and I know I kind of talked about this in the beginning, but if you are somebody who is looking to develop these skills and the confidence of being an influential leader where you never have to second guess yourself and you have the skills to like literally make an impact, huge impact, not only professionally, but also when it comes to your family and yourself, definitely check out the replay that I posted up. It's at mindsetwithmark.com/leader. And if the Ideal Leader Blueprint is for you, we would love to have you. Regardless, go out, keep leading. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you guys on Thursday. Bye, everybody.